When you hear that every nation owes trillions, a strange question rises. To whom? If America, China, Europe, and even the richest oil states are in debt, then who is the creditor of the world? This question isn't just about money. It's about power, the kind that has built and broken empires for thousands of years. To answer it, we must travel through time, from the birth of trade to the creation of credit itself. Debt began long before banks. In the temples of Mesopotamia, clay tablets recorded promises: a farmer's loan of grain, a merchant's silver. Debt was a sacred bond, enforced by gods and kings. But when too many owed too much, rulers wiped the slate clean with debt forgiveness. It was the earliest reset button in history, proof that even then, money and mercy were twins. Centuries later, coins replaced promises. In Greece and Rome, emperors stamped their faces on silver, turning debt into empire. Armies marched not for glory, but for gold to refill the treasury. The empire's strength depended not on its soldiers, but on the trust in its coin. And when that trust cracked, the empire crumbled. After Rome fell, gold vanished from daily trade. Faith itself became currency. In medieval Europe, the church lent power and forgiveness, while merchants invented bills of exchange. Paper replaced metal, and trust replaced gold. But every promise carried a question: what happens when faith runs out? In the lagoons of Venice, a new kind of empire rose, one built not on land but on ledgers. Venetian bankers financed fleets and wars with mere ink. They invented bonds, the first public debt, and citizens became investors in their own government. The idea was revolutionary. A nation could owe itself. In the 1600s, Amsterdam took the Venetian idea global. The Dutch East India Company sold shares, slices of empire. Investors across Europe could now profit from a ship they'd never see. For the first time, debt became tradable. The world of finance had awakened, and it would never sleep again. When England watched the Dutch grow rich, it learned their secret: credit could conquer the world. The Bank of England was born in 1694, funding wars and colonies with promises instead of gold. Every cannon, every ship, every crown jewel built on borrowed trust. Debt had become the bloodstream of empire. Across the Atlantic, a new nation borrowed its freedom. To fund its revolution, America issued bonds, promises backed by hope. When victory came, so did debt. But unlike the old empires, the United States turned its debt into destiny. The dollar became not just money, but belief in a future. Steam engines roared, railways stretched like veins across continents. Factories demanded capital, nations demanded investors. Debt fueled invention, and invention fueled more debt. The 19th century was a machine powered by credit. The creditor was no longer a king, it was the system itself. By the early 20th century, nations promised their money was backed by gold, but wars devoured metal faster than miners could dig. The First World War shattered the illusion. Governments printed paper faster than truth could keep up. Inflation became the hidden tax of empire. After World War II, one currency stood untouched: the US dollar. At Bretton Woods, leaders tied their fortunes to it, trusting America's promise of gold. For a time, the world believed the vault would never empty, but trust, like gold, can only stretch so far. In 1971, President Nixon cut the link between gold and the dollar. The world gasped. Money was now faith alone. From that moment, every note became a promise without metal. Debt could expand infinitely, and it did. The world had entered the age of invisible credit. To keep trust alive, America forged a quiet alliance with oil. Saudi Arabia agreed to sell oil only in dollars, binding energy to currency. Every nation that needed oil now needed dollars. The creditor was no longer a person. It was the system that controlled the flow of energy and debt. Banks, corporations, and governments became one ecosystem of obligation. Money no longer represented labor or gold. It represented debt itself. Each dollar born into existence came with an IOU. The world had turned its future into collateral, and somehow everyone owed everyone. So who profits when every country is in debt? The answer lies in balance sheets and bonds, in pension funds, hedge funds, and central banks. Ordinary people unknowingly are both debtors and creditors through their savings and taxes. The system feeds itself, an Ouroboros of finance devouring its own tail. Today, money is no longer paper or metal, it's code. Algorithms lend, trade, and speculate faster than thought. Debt now exists in data clouds, invisible yet powerful. The creditor is no longer human. It's a network of machines enforcing faith in numbers. Nations boast of assets, yet most are borrowed. Corporations own skyscrapers built with credit, citizens buy homes with loans, and governments run on deficits. We live inside a global mirage, a world rented from the future, and the rent is always due. Empires once ruled with swords, now they rule with spreadsheets. Interest rates replace armies, sanctions replace battleships. The most powerful nations no longer conquer land, they control liquidity. It's a quieter empire, but no less absolute. Yet history whispers, no empire of debt lasts forever. Rome debased its coin, Britain sold its gold. Perhaps the next collapse will not be of armies, but of trust. And when that day comes, humanity will once again ask, what is value really? Behind every statistic is a person, a worker, a family, a dream deferred. Debt builds nations, but it also binds them. We measure progress and growth, yet forget the weight it carries. Perhaps the real creditor isn't a bank or nation, but the generations who will pay tomorrow for today's ambitions. From clay tablets to digital tokens, one truth endures. Debt is trust in motion. Every empire that mastered it rose. Every empire that abused it fell. The creditor is not hidden in vaults. It's the idea that faith in the future can be traded. And that idea, for better or worse, defines civilization. So when you hear that every country is in debt, remember, the world isn't broke. It's balance on a promise that tomorrow will always be richer than today. That belief is both our power and our peril, because history shows when faith becomes currency, the real creditor is time itself.